I get to make donuts for a living. That's the coolest part of the whole thing.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Westra, and I think you are going to love today's episode. If you've ever drinking a coffee at a Starbucks or had a pizza at a Mod Pizza, you notice one thing in common with each of those places. Yes, they are replicatable. Yes, they are scalable. Yes, they are all over the place. But another commonality is our next guest, Chris Schultz. He's an amazing entrepreneur, amazing mind of growth and scaling. And I'm so grateful to have him on today's episode because he's going to talk to us about not only the growth and scaling he experienced in those two brands, but also what he's doing right now with a donut brand called Voodoo Donuts that he's going to tell us all about in the episode. But you're going to love the insights. I mean, there's not many people you talk to that have grown and scaled to literally thousands of locations under their leadership and direction, as well as, going from 6 locations to 300 or from 100 to 20,000. Like what he's doing right now is similar but different with the donut brand. But his insights are fantastic. They are amazing. I absolutely loved doing this interview, and I'm looking forward to re-listening to it. And so thank you for taking the time to be here today. If you know someone that is really passionate about their growth and scaling journey, this is a fun episode to share them into. And I hope you enjoy it. And we'll see you on the other side of this interview with some post-interview feedback. We'll talk to you then. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. I am so excited for today's guest because he has grown businesses not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. And 2 of them you're definitely going to recognize. And the third, I think you're going to recognize at some point in the near future. Chris, tell us who you are and what do you do?
Hey, I am the CEO of Voodoo Donut, based out of Portland, Oregon.
Love it.
And I get to make donuts for a living.
Well,
that's the coolest part of the whole thing.
That is cool. So how did you jump into that journey? I mean, donuts, really?
Yeah. Well, I've only ever worked in restaurants my whole life. I've never had another job. So over 40 years in the restaurant business to age myself. Most recently, the last 25 or 30 years, I was in the coffee business with Starbucks.
Yeah.
I was in the pizza business with Mod Pizza, and now I'm in the donut business.
I love it.
And growing, right? I mean, we're just growing. Over here at Voodoo, we're now at 17 locations. That's about 110% growth over the last 3 years. And we've got 2 more under construction. So, right, having a lot of fun making donuts and opening restaurants and having a good time.
Well, this is fantastic. I mean, a lot of people talk about those brands, the Mods and the Starbucks and things like that. But you really were in on the ground floor of both those companies as they launched and got things really moving. You've seen this happen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel blessed, right? Blessed for those opportunities. I was at Starbucks in the early 90s, and I think there was 100 stores left. There was 20,000.
Wow.
I was lucky enough to join Mod at the first store, about 6 employees, and helped to grow. Was again, very blessed and very fortunate to be a part of that growth to a little over 300 stores, including 10 in the UK, and then came to Voodoo, right?
So
kind of caught that crossroads. Okay, what was next, and where did I have my most fun? And my most fun was growing, right? Growing, watching people grow, hiring people, and putting in work and watching them be great. And so I chose to come to Voodoo next, and
that's
here
awesome.
I am.
I mean, you literally go from like coffee, which is good, cool. You got your pizza, which is good. I mean, donuts. I mean, seriously, I don't know what's next. Maybe it's ice cream, but tell me about Voodoo. What is so unique about Voodoo Donuts, and tell us a little bit about what makes it a special novelty.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of Voodoo Donuts, we're a cult follow brand, right?
Love it.
We're a 20-year startup, as I call it.
Love it.
We make very unique donuts in a very unique atmosphere. Most of our buildings are pink. You're going to hear different music inside of our stores. Our donuts are kept in jewel cases or spinner cases in the store. So every donut is special and unique. 51 different flavors, 20 different vegan offerings. it's just an event, right? It's all about the experience of going and getting donuts. And we've been fortunate enough to grow. Right now, we're currently located up here in the Northwest in Portland and Vancouver, Washington, Denver, Colorado, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. So we're growing. We're in the Denver airport. We're in Universal Studios in both LA and Orlando. So
love it.
We're just kind of growing. But again, it's that unique experience of going into Voodoo and picking out, seeing these great donuts in this really spinner environment and not being rushed, but taking your time to choose the one that's special for you and then putting in a pink box. For us, we're really kind of well known for our pink boxes. And, you see them carried throughout the airport. It's like carrying a puppy, right? When you're carrying a Voodoo pink box and people stop, you're like, what do you got in there? And you're like, oh my goodness, it's Voodoo.
Check it out.
So it's really a cool environment, right? I couldn't have chosen a better place for me to come to really not only have fun doing what we're doing, but as I said, we make donuts, right? There's a lot of bad jobs, and making donuts isn't one of them.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, seriously though, so making donuts, the act of growing and scaling though is what I really want to focus on, because that is what you are. It sounds like you have just been involved in this. You've been doing this your entire career. Growth and scaling in that industry specifically is not easy for most people. But now you've kind of seen that pattern and replicated and go. I mean, what's in the future for Voodoo? How big do you see this brand getting?
Yeah, and thank you for the kind words. Yeah, it's just kind of what I do, right? If we're not growing, I'm just a restaurant growth guy. That's just kind of my background and my experience. I think Voodoo's not meant to be on every street corner, right? Know your brand, know who you are. That's part growth, right? It's understanding what type of brand you are and where you really want to grow and what makes sense, right? At Mod, we opened, I left at 350. I think there's 500 now. That made sense for that brand. Starbucks, I said when I left, it makes sense for that brand. Voodoo is not meant to be 200 stores across the country, right? It's about an experience. Right. So for us, we'll open another 6 stores this year, which will take us north of 20, 25. And we'll probably open at that kind of clip, like 5 to 7 a year. Cool. The next few years. But, it's got to be, it's experience branding, right? I know the brand, know who you are, know the environment. If I'm on every street corner, I'm ubiquitous then I'm not special. What makes it special? And I think that's an important part of when you grow, and especially entrepreneurs, figure out who you want to be when you grow up. Yeah. Right? And then go take the right classes and take the right studies and buy the right clothes and all those things you do as you grow up, because you're getting prepared to be what you want to be. Right. Same thing with business, right? You got to know what you want to be. You just can't throw everything out there and see what settles. Totally.
Now, 15-year startup, and you've been part of it for 5 years or so. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about when you jumped into the business and you had been grow, and now you're in this kind of like, tell me about that, because that is like crazy. Yeah, that had to have been something very culturally like weird for you.
Oh yeah, I tell the story about copy paper, and stay with me for 1 second. It'll be a real quick story, but I love stories. Yeah. So when I was at Starbucks, we were in this gigantic headquarters, and we had a copy room, and there was copy paper and pens and pencils and all of that. Right. And then I went to Mod, and Mod, I worked out of my car for the first 10 stores. We finally got this little tiny office above a garage. And I remember going to print something, and I was like, where's the copy paper? I'm like, well, I got to go get the copy paper, right? Because there's no one to get it. Then in Mod, we grew to 300 stores. And now we got a big office and 2 floors and a couple hundred people in the office. And I've got an admin, and I've got, all this support, and there's copy paper. And I came to Voodoo, and I remember literally the first day going in the offices with 4 people, total 4 people in the office. Today I sit in an office of 12. Yeah. And I went to print something, and they were out of paper. And I said to somebody else in the office, hey, where's the copy paper? And they're like, at Office Depot, right? So it was like kind of that, like, never grow too big, right? You're back into it again.
That's awesome.
And it was an interesting culture because the founders were great entrepreneurs, great marketers, but they hadn't really thought about how to grow it. Right. And what do you need to do in order to grow a brand efficiently and effectively? And meet the financial expectations of whether it's investors or entrepreneurs, right? There's financial requirements to it.
100%.
And how do you do that combined with wanting to grow and having visions of grandeur to be the next Krispy Kreme
For
in
sure.
the donut world, right?
For sure.
And it's a happy balance. And they were great marketers, so they really had the marketing side of the business nailed. They just weren't very good operators, right? They didn't understand how to operate a business.
Systems, processes.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them one thing I applaud them on is that they were smart enough to know their limitations.
Yeah.
Right? Entrepreneurs many times, all due respect, don't know their limitations, right? They're entrepreneurs. They envision this thing. And they don't realize everybody has limitations. I have limitations. I'm not a great financial guy. I got to hire a really good financial person to work with me.
Right.
I know it, but I need someone who's really good at it. So, they were good at knowing their limitations and then bringing people to surround them and support them to pick up the back end of what they weren't really good at. And one of the things was, hey, we're great marketing people. We want to grow the business and we don't know how to do that. Let's bring in someone who knows how to do that if we want to grow this business. So
love it.
Yeah.
Hey there, friends. This is Todd. Running a business, honestly, can leave a lot of founders and operators feeling lonely and isolated. If you have ever felt that way, trust me, I know what it feels like. And there is something you can do about it. You've heard a lot of our guests talk about the fact that being lonely and isolated is one of their biggest challenges in trying to run and scale their business. captainscouncil.com. Go to captainscouncil.com right now and see what we're doing to resolve this problem. We want you to be a strong operator who has solutions and has a way to get around the challenges you're currently facing. What most founders don't understand is that you're not alone. The challenges that you're facing, likely somebody else has already overcome, and they can give you the feedback you need to overcome them. Who better than your peers, other founders, other operators who are joining with you in a small group setting, a global community setting, as well as at our in-person events to guide you through these challenges that you're facing right now. Don't give up, keep on pushing, but do it with some good advice from your peers. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com and let me know what you think about the offering. We can't wait to see you there. That's fascinating because I think a lot of people listening to the show are founders who are like what you're describing right now. Hey, dude, we totally know our audience, we totally know this, but we suck at putting these, we don't have copy paper. You know what I mean? Right. We got to get these systems and processes in play. How do you, when you see this, because you probably see it all the time now, or at least you see it more clearly than I think most people do, especially in the restaurant industry. How do you take someone that could be a really cool brand and plug them into kind of this remoldable Starbucks type model where it's like you could be in little no-name town in the Philippines and have the same experience that you do in Seattle?
Yeah, well, I think that's part of it, right? How do you grow big and stay small?
Right.
I'm stealing that from Starbucks back in the early 90s. That was kind of their mantra. How do we grow big but stay small? How do we become the local coffee shop with the big green logo, right?
Right.
Same thing with Mod. How do we become the local pizzeria? Just happens to have this great big red logo out front.
Right.
And I think that's a challenge, right? And you have to, again, recognize that's your challenge. Surround yourself with people that know the business and know the brand, or what I call culture carriers.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And let them pollinate, if you will, right, in those markets you go into. And whether you're thinking of a franchise model and bringing on franchisees, right?
Sure.
Number one, most important thing is, do they understand my culture? Do they understand what I'm trying to build?
Right.
Right? Everyone can swipe a check.
Right.
But not everyone can follow your lead of what you want to be as what you want the brand to reflect, if you will, because it's yours, right? I mean, no one can do it better than you.
Right.
But I think it's finding those culture carriers. And then the other part is go slow and fail fast. Right?
Okay.
Make mistakes early.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're going to make a mistake early on in your career, early on in the path of the brand, try things now while you're young and you're growing, and not everything works. But fail fast or fail
100%.
early, because you get far more lessons from failing than you do in winning.
Right.
You know, and my career is chock full of failures.
Of course.
Right.
That's why you're running Voodoo Donuts.
But I think you got to fail fast, and don't be afraid to fail early. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
It's a whole less. If I fall off my bike now than when I was 10 years old, it takes a lot longer for me to heal.
Well, what are some of the things that you? Yeah, no doubt about it. I feel that aging thing happening. No doubt about it. Tell me about the fails that you've had. I mean, what have you done with Voodoo?
I got a great
mod
one.
that have really kind of hit you in the head.
Yeah, so I came to Voodoo, and I, of course, being the smartest man in the room, because now I was the CEO, and so I'm the smartest man in the room. I said, show me our donuts and what we sell, right? SKU report, right? And I said, listen, no one, and I'm looking at our sales, and I said, no one buys vegans. Why are we making 21 different vegan options, right? That's ridiculous. No one buys them. We should just stop doing vegans, right? Again, smartest man in the room. Didn't ask anybody, just read the data and made this decision on my own, right? Literally, we did it for like a week, and we got the backlash we received from folks that came to our stores for vegan donuts.
Wow.
Right? Just the backlash was unbelievable.
Wow.
And a company that worked for me said, I could have told you so. And I said, why didn't you? Because they said, you didn't ask. You didn't ask.
Gosh.
Right?
Yeah, no doubt.
That was an aha moment for me, because I had come from Starbucks and Mod. Now here I was at this little donut shop. I know everything. I'm the smartest man in the room.
Right.
And I failed to ask the people around me, people that have been here, what do you think?
Wow.
Right? What do you think? And then we reinstated vegans in a matter of like 3 days. We're back doing vegans again. And now awesome. I make sure we have vegan offerings and everything we do. But, for me, that's just one small indicator where, I thought I knew everything, right? And I made a mistake. And now I've learned my lesson of I had to be reminded once again to ask the folks around you, right? Yeah. Ask the experts in the industry. Ask the people at the stores, like what works and what doesn't work. And then take all that in and still make the decision as you would as a leader, which is what you get paid for. You make those decisions. Yeah. But take as much information as you can.
Right. Now, I got some questions for you. In terms of, with what you're doing with Voodoo and what you've done with some of these other brands, how much of your focus and attention is on what's going on internally versus what's going on externally with your competitors? How closely are you monitoring what's going on there versus... You know what I mean?
That's a great question. And it's interesting for us. I was just having this conversation with somebody on my team today. Our competitors in today's economy, in today's world, aren't donut shops. Donut shops are one of our competitors, as is ice cream shops, as is frozen yogurt shops, as is, right? Because we're competing for that $1 where people want to go treat themselves. Right. And they're making a choice to go to get donuts or ice cream or frozen yogurt or crumble cookies. Give them a plug. They don't need a plug. But, they
don't need a plug.
Yeah. But, that's our competitors. And if I spend my entire time worrying about my competitors, I don't already sleep. I would sleep less, right? You have to know who your competitors are, so you're aware of them and check in every once in a while what they're doing. But nothing they do sets the path of what we're doing.
Right. Ever. That's a very abundance mindset type of way to go about it. How do you help people who are really stuck in that scarcity mindset where they're like, oh my gosh, there's only so many dollars they're going to be spent on these types of goods. There's no way I can capture enough. How do you convince them they're wrong? That there is so much out there. Yeah. They just got to keep plugging away.
Yeah, well, but I don't know that they're entirely wrong.
Okay.
Right? I think they're right at some point, right? There's only so much you can do. There's only so much mind share. There's only so much capital. You're right. There is more to do and more to address than you can think of. Absolutely, 100%. So I tell them I recognize that. But then with that a given, that being said, now let's figure out what we're going to do, right? Because being stagnant is not going to work.
Right.
And being frozen in our own world is not going to work. Right. And spreading bird seed on every little area is not going to work.
I love it.
Right? So where can we focus our attention, our efforts, our energy, and our resources that we think is going to move the needle and be successful the most? Keeping in mind, you're absolutely right. If you think about it, the world's going to, there's a million things to take into consideration all the time.
Right.
And on owners, worrying about competitors or worrying about what's the next brand or what's the next product or how do I get my sales reps out to make more cold calls or how do I engage? It's interesting because I've only been in the restaurant business, but there's such correlations, right?
Tons.
Whether it's selling cars or selling products, it's all the same. How do I motivate my people to do the best job they can, given the resources they're given, and to be brand ambassadors for the brand when they're working for us?
100%. And it does come down a lot to what you're implying, what you're inferring, core values, mission statement, clear, avatar that you're going after.
Right.
Like when you can get buy-in from your team to do those things, you get a Starbucks, you get a Mod Pizza, you get Voodoo Donuts. And I think that what you're doing, the drill, and I don't think there's any industry that's void of that same model. They just need to know those things going into it.
Yeah, and I think, and the other part what I had to learn was I had to trust.
Yeah.
Right? Forever I want to do everything myself. Like no one could do it better than me. And the answer was, you're right. No one could do it better than me. But I can't do it all. Right?
Yep.
And so one of the things I had to learn in this growth mode was I can't be at every store. I can't be at every meeting. I can't.
No.
I just can't.
100%.
And I had to ensure that I empowered my people to make decisions, allowed them to make mistakes.
Yep.
And then was able to take a step back, right? Because that's the other problem with growth is with growth comes so much stress and agony and effort, and you just can't do it all yourself. And I think many entrepreneurs or leaders or they try to.
Yep.
And they either burn up or burn out or they fail.
Totally.
Right. And so, just kind of pick core people.
And how do you look at in your, I love to do this shout out thing at the end of my podcast because I really feel like it is so lonely when you're, when you're running a business and you're the operator, the primary operator, you are the one, the buck does stop with you. And so it is a lonely role. Who do you look at in your inner circle who have maybe someone that's inspired you, that's kind of kept you motivated, that, you know what, I'm going to leave Mod, I'm going to go do this donut thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, of course, my family, right?
Awesome.
Because there's no one that loves me more or believes in me more, who trusts me more, who tells me I'm right more often than my family. They just don't tell me I'm wrong enough, right? But,
right.
But there's a gentleman named Greg John. I have a lot of mentors. I call probably once a week a different group of mentors. But a gentleman named Greg Johnson I work with at Starbucks, who's been monumental in my career growth and reminding me that I'm good enough, right? Because more often than not, it's not about knowing that it's me wondering if I'm good enough, right? Confidence.
Right.
And questioning myself.
Yeah.
And more often than not, I just call him and talk to him about that. I'm like, I'm not sure. And he's, he'll put, kick me in the butt when I need it, but pat me in the back when I need it as well. But yeah, Greg Johnson is a person who I wouldn't hesitate to call it at a moment's notice about anything.
I love it. That's a great shout out. I think if those of you who are listening to this, get used to the fact that your confidence will always be going up and down.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. All the time.
And it's great to have those people. It's great to have those lifelines. Yeah. Listen, I have loved this interview. I think that for anyone that's out there looking to grow and scale their business, what better model to look at than someone like a Starbucks or a Mod or the upcoming Voodoo Donuts, in that there are simple businesses doing one product that really have set the pace, set the example of systems, processes, tools. And it fits in almost any industry. I
think so. Yeah, I appreciate the time and getting a chance to tell my story. And, right? You're such a great resource and so smart in this world, right? But I appreciate
how do we get people to follow you? Are you on social media anywhere? Where you at? People want to hear about what you're up to.
I'm not. I mean, I have a whole team of people that are, and again, know your limitations, right?
Perfect.
Don't try to be something I'm not. I'm not a social media guy. So I'm going to go post and tweet. No, I'm not. I mean, listen, I'm available at Chris at Voodoo Donut, singular.com. Any more than happy. Anyone can send me an email anytime, ask me any question.
Love
anytime. More than happy to respond to any of them. Just
Chris,
remind me where you heard me from. Yeah.
You're awesome. You're awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank
we
you.
Look forward to seeing all the rest of you on the next one. See you, Chris.
Thank you. Bye now.
Hey, what did you think of that episode? I loved it. I honestly, I think Chris was an amazing guest. He was an amazing mind. I've learned a ton from this interview. I think that, clearly I'm one that has not been in the restaurant business, but no matter what business you're in, the principles of people, processes, and tools, those things make things replicatable, make them scalable, and open up the door to huge growth and scaling potential. I love this interview. If you know someone that needs to hear it, if you know someone who doesn't even have to be in the restaurant business, but is looking for ways to grow and scale their business from an operational standpoint, this is the interview for them. Chris is an amazing operator. He exposed himself with some weaknesses, with some, not listening to people on his team the right way, but he was also humble enough to recognize, shoot, I got to do better at that, and did it, made the change, and then went on to grow and scale. I love this guy, love his business. I can't wait to try one of his donuts, and I hope that you found some satisfaction in the episode. And if you did, please like, share, subscribe, and get this thing out there. This show is really there for you. For any operator, for any business founder, for anyone looking to grow and scale a business from any vantage point, this is the podcast for you. We help you learn what other successful founders have done to unlock their growth potential of their business, and we hope it's there to help you as well. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you on the next one.